So for those of you who've played the original Resident Evil 3, we remember that character at the early part of the game that decided to barricade himself inside the warehouse, with him right in the middle of a nervous breakdown, still reeling due to the events of the Raccoon City outbreak. But who exactly is this character, and what role will he play in Resident Evil 3 Remake? Well, in this video, we'll be discussing Dario Rosso and his tragic fate as a character.
What? What do you think you're talking about?
Where we also delve in on his background and cover what new aspects he may play in RE3 Remake. Anyways, before we do get started with the video, I just want to say my name's DeVuH, and I do cover a lot of Resident Evil and other survival horror content on my channel. So if you guys are interested in these types of videos, then please feel free to like and subscribe for more content like this in the future. And also possibly adding me both on Instagram and on Twitter, where you guys can message me there personally at any time. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about his initial debut in the original Resident Evil 3 and work our way backwards towards his past, starting with his first interaction with him while playing as Valentine at the very start of the game, because we already see him in complete distress, mourning for the loss of his daughter just before he found shelter inside the warehouse, thinking it would be a better idea to just seclude himself inside one of the containers and ride out the rest of the outbreak, preferring this option of safety instead of taking the chance of going outside and looking for an escape from the city.
No! I'm not going anywhere! I'd rather starve to death in here than be eaten by one of those undead monsters! Now leave me alone!
This of course is a normal human response after losing his whole family. I mean, if put in his situation, I'm sure a good majority of the public would rather hide themselves from the zombies instead of facing them and possibly turn into one. During the course of the game, this would end in tragedy for Dario, because if we return back to the warehouse after a short while, we instead are met with his body laying on the floor, indicating that his attempts of sheltering himself inside this warehouse was to his own detriment, which is a sad fate since he already passed on so early into the game, reminding me of Robert Kendo from the original Resident Evil 2 and how his debut in the game was cut short due to the sudden surprise attack inside his gun shop. Anyways, even with Dario's passing in the game, one would think how in the world did he end up by himself and manage to bump into Valentine, because that part of his background was covered in the Resident Evil Chinese manhwa, where it indicates that he wasn't that pleasant of a human being himself, being succumbed to fear and panic and ended up causing the lives of both his wife and daughter, because in these panels here, we see him in a state of panic after being chased down by the zombies in what appears to be a small alley. This of course would cause him to shut the door and locking it, out of fear that the zombies may break through, but doing this would have his wife and daughter on the wrong side of that barricade, because a moment before, his wife accidentally falls and causes their daughter to stop due to the concern for her mother, which we know how this ends, with Dario closing that gate and locking it, running away from his family and letting them be trapped with a horde of zombies behind him, with that image showing the true tragic fate of this family and how sad it would be that the state of shock that would have Dario abandon his own loved ones.
What?
And I know this comic is not canon within the Resident Evil lore, but the overall depiction of this event would have been nice to see in the original RE3, adding a layer to a character that we barely knew at the beginning of the game. Also, since we're on the subject of abandoning their loved ones due to a viral outbreak, doesn't this background story to Dario remind you of 28 weeks later and how this jerk decided to abandon his wife while being hunted by the infected, and then had the audacity to lie to his children to cover the cowardly act that he committed early on in the movie. Anyways, I found it interesting and the movie as a whole, especially with the depiction of the infected being much more aggressive and could run to hunt down their prey. So if you guys want me to cover the other viral outbreak topics or media, let me know in the comment section down below. Anyways, going back to Dario and Resident Evil 3, with the loss of his daughter that he stated in the game, one would presume that she passed away without us ever finding out her exact location. But during RE3, there were several hints or rumors among the community that leads us to believe that there could be some possibilities of us seeing Dario's daughter, with the first theory would be right here, with one of the female civilians running away from the zombies, with us players having no chance to save her regardless of what we try to do in the game. which then is speculated that when Dario said he lost his daughter, he really meant it in a literal term, causing them both to be separated, and with her roaming the streets of Raccoon City, fleeing from the zombies until she's finally caught during our gameplay.
I told you! I'm not leaving! Never! Just get away from me.
But the second theory could have happened during our playthrough at the clock tower area, and how we found one of the UBCS soldiers next to another female civilian's body, with a file stating that in his pocketbook, he writes the events leading up to the eventual meetup with this random girl at the clock tower, who reminded him of his sister. Also, though wanting to escape, the girl didn't want to evacuate due to her father not wanting to leave the city where his wife was laid to rest, which kinda hints into Dario's storyline and how this could be the possibility of his daughter taking shelter at the clock tower area after being lost and separated from her father, which this now brings us to what we know so far with Resident Evil 3 Remake and how Dario would play out during the game, because it's been speculated that he'll play a slightly larger role this time around, with a look to his face indicating that he'll still be a character in complete distraught and opting to stay behind while Jill tries to find a way to get out of the city. But how exactly will this play out, and would this remake actually show us a backstory prior to Dario meeting Jill in the warehouse? Because only time will tell, but if RE2 Remake was any indication of exploring more into a character's role and expanding upon it, I think it's safe to say that he'll play a bit of a larger role, but in the end would suffer the same tragic fate and would end up exactly like we saw from the original RE3. Anyways, what'd you guys think of Dario, and what role will he play during Resident Evil 3 Remake? Please let me know your theories and speculation and why he'll play a larger role in the comment section down below. Also, if you guys are interested in other Resident Evil lore and backstories, then please feel free to check these other videos on the card on the top right section of your screen, or checking them out on my channel homepage. Anyways, I just want to thank you guys so much for helping me build this awesome community, and I am honored to have such a great support from every single one of you. So thank you guys so much, and I will do my best to keep making Resident Evil videos and other survival horror content on my channel, because I do have a lot working in the background for you guys to enjoy in the near future. Anyways, again, thank you guys so much, and as always, you guys have a great rest of your day, and this is Hey DeVuH, and I'll see you guys on the next video.